AD, how do you feel about refinancing? Don't. For what? The only time that it makes sense for you to refinance is if you can get it at a lower rate. You're not going to get it at a lower rate if you bought your house in 2021, 22. So you're not going to get a lower rate. The other time that people refinance is when they want to pull money out of the home to do something else. What else would you do with the money? What else would you do with the money? Hmm? For what? So you're going to refinance at a higher rate in order to pull money out of the home to do what? Pay off. I don't advise that you refinance your home. I advise that you actually pay off your home. I actually advise that you pay off your home, not refinance. Don't refinance your home. You need to pay off your home. That's what my goal would be. That's what my goal would be. I would be paying off my home. I would be trying to get from under that thing as fast as possible. Do you know how most people actually are able to retire? Most older people, when they retire, they don't retire until they can pay off their home. Paying off your home is one of the biggest flexes. Listen, I don't want to hear this. This is my thing. This is my thing. I don't want to hear from nobody that tell me about how much they got, how much you do this, how much you do that, what kind of chain you got, what kind of car you got. The biggest flex that you can show me, and I don't care how much the home costs. I don't care if it's 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, 400,000, 500. I don't want to hear from nobody telling me, oh man, I live in $1 million home. I'm stunting, I'm flexing, and all of this stuff. That don't mean nothing to me. That just means you got big bills. That just means to me that you got big bills. The greatest flex, and I'm not telling you that you got to do it by next year or nothing, but this should absolutely at the top of your goals and your leaderboards should be a couple different things. The first thing that should be on the top of your leaderboard, or I mean, I'm not going to say the first thing because everybody got different priorities. One of the top things that should be on people's leaderboards is to get from under a mortgage. I know they sold y'all on the idea that you should have a mortgage and your mortgage should be this percentage of your income. But what I'm trying to tell you is that is the way that the banks make money. And it's a perception of success when you see people in big houses and they making that mortgage payment and all they doing is making the banks richer. All they doing is making the banks richer. If people would life hack their homes in the same way that they life hack their cars, and if they put that much more effort into their homes than they did in their cars, then that's how you would want to do it as far as leveling up. You know what people would do with their cars? I know people that without even blinking, myself, I do it myself. I'll buy a 130, 140, 150, $160,000 car without even blinking twice. And not only would I do that, I'll save up and pay for it cash. I know when it's coming. We put all of our effort into looking good and the buying cars and this stuff. We have no problem. Cars is too expensive, $70,000, $80,000, but you ain't got no problem with buying it still. You still gonna buy it. One thing that the car manufacturers know is that you're gonna still go and buy that car. But here's the problem though, is that if you start to get into super luxury cars, supercars, sports cars, hypercars, what they'll tell you and what the play is for most of them is that most of the time they'll get into it. You know, if they can get a low enough interest rate, they'll finance it because they can make more money off their money than giving it over to the bank or whatever and just paying for the car cash. And so they car hack. But part of car hacking is this, is that they get into a vehicle and they finance it, right? But they'll finance their first car for over $100,000. Cool. And then they're basically, and this is one of the reasons why they sell y'all on credit. What they'll do is they'll then take the whole credit aspect because you've now shown that you can afford these type of cars and you can afford these type of payments. So you're a trustworthy person to lend money to when it comes to cars. Well, they do also do a cost benefit analysis, and that cost benefit analysis is they still do the risk taking, right? So they'll pull your credit still, whatever. Okay, cool. You know what? He got this car, he got that that sports car, that supercar, that hypercar, whatever. Okay. Well, I think that we feel comfortable enough to be able to lend you money for this next car. But you got to trade in the car that you previously had, right? And trading in the car that you previously had, depending on how rare the car is or how nice the car is, if you got a lot of equity in a car because you've been making these payments for the last 2 or 3 years, right? Then what happens is they'll give you the difference of what it is that they can sell it for in order for you to finance a new car. So you basically rolling over the equity of that car into the next purchase, and they feel more comfortable lending it to you for the next purchase because now they have equity in the next car because the value of it is higher than whatever it is that you owe on it. So let's say, for example, I got a 911, right? And let's say I can get 100,000. Let's just use a round number, $100,000 for it, right? Cool. Well, the new Lambo that I just ordered, assuming that I don't pay cash, right, is with options, with taxes, maybe $500,000, right? And I showed y'all the spec sheet and everything and all of that. All right, cool. Now let's say you put another 100,000 with it because you're a high earner, and you trade it in, and you also get 100,000 from equity from the Porsche 911 that you got because it's got low miles. Okay, now you only owe $300,000 on that car. That's a $500,000 car, and so you basically flipping up because you've now shown the finance company that you're continuing to do business with that you're a good customer to lend to because they felt comfortable lending you one, and so you now life hacking and you going up to the next one or whatever. So whereas you bought that other Porsche for $150,000, $160,000, $170,000, and you was able to pay that down, and then also they made a decent amount of money and they qualify you, they're looking to loan to people because that's how they make their money. They're looking to loan to people because that's how they make their money. So really, you're financing this car for $300,000, even though the value of it, even if it loses some equity or even if it loses some of its value, you bought a $500,000 car, you owe $300,000 on it, and we know you're going to try to pay that off faster than usual because you're going to accelerate the payment so that you can eventually trade up to the next car, a hypercar, a super hypercar, or whatever. And that's how people basically hack their way up to get into the $1 million cars, but they still making around or a little bit more the same amount of money. Interesting thing about that though is because I was looking at different people that was doing that, right? And I know a lot of people that do that because they get the cars, they love the cars or whatever, so on and so forth. You can afford it, do whatever it is that you want to do. They plan around with the money to try to figure out how to make the most money. Do they need to put it in the market and let the market pay for their car or whatever, right? But they want to build up that equity with the bank in order to make sure that they can get the next car, just in case they ever want to buy it. You know what's so interesting about that? We don't really do that when it comes to homes. We don't really do that when it comes to real estate. We don't really put a priority in making sure that we pay off the mortgages that we have because we've been sold to hold on to that mortgage for 30 years. And the only time that we ever touch that mortgage is if we want to pull some money out of it or we want to get a HELOC, a home equity line of credit. And so whereas people will prioritize paying down or paying off their car as fast as possible so they can do more money with the bank, we never do that with real estate. We buy the home. And then the only questions that people ever ask me or ask anybody in real estate is, hey, but what if I want to pull money out of the home? Or do you think that a home equity line of credit is good? Or do you think that refinancing is good or any of that type of stuff? And they're okay. They'll buy a $300,000 home, $350,000 home and finance it for 30 years. They'll get a $300,000, $400,000 supercar and finance it for 6 or 7. They will work their ass off to finance a $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 supercar and finance it for 6 or 7. and they'll finance their home for 30. And the first 10, 15 years of the mortgage is all going towards interest in the bank, and hardly any of it is going towards the principal. You know why they do that? Because we program to do so, and we don't think any differently other than whatever is marketed to us, because we trust the banks, we trust YouTubers, we trust people to tell us and sell us information when they should be teaching us how to think. The only reason why I put these things, I started thinking, and again, I'm not giving you new information, but I'm teaching you how to think differently about your finances, right? The only thing that separates me from a lot of other people is that A, I do my research, B, I put my own money up, and C, I try to make sense of things before I buy it. Even an iPad, right? I was thinking to myself, well, why would I need an iPad if I got a laptop? Then I started justifying it because there were certain use cases that I could logically justify spending some money in, which I would then write that off as a business expense because it's for business. I have to make sense of it. And I can't make sense. I've never been able to make sense of a 30-year mortgage. I've never actually seen anybody pay off a 30-year mortgage in 30 years. I've never. Do you know why I haven't bought $1 million house yet? Why I don't live in $1 million house? Is because up to this point in my life, and again, I'm pretty sure at some point I'll be living in $1 million house, despite what I show you my income is, despite how much money, I've never been able to justify living in $1 million house with three people, with two other people, three of us total, paying more property taxes and taking the money that I would have invested inside of the market, the stock market, and other real estate. Every time I think, you know what, I'm about to start building this $1 million home, I see another property that I can rent out to people, and then I make that play, and then instead I invested in that, and I let them continue to pay me the rent. I haven't been able to wing it. I haven't been able to justify it. It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me. I gotta, at some point, I'm gonna justify it. I've been working it. I've been trying to justify it. You know what? And I ain't even just talking about the money wise. I'm just talking about lifestyle. Like I've been trying to justify, you know what? I need a 20-car garage and this and that. And that. I ain't been able to justify it. I haven't been able to justify it. Exactly. It's not practical to live in a home that's bigger than its purpose. So, with that being said, I've now realized that that is a luxury. That is not a necessity. I have everything that I need. I have every single thing that I need in order to be able to live the lifestyle that I want. And until I can justify the luxury, then I will just continue to rock out with the necessity because it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't register in my mind. It would match a lifestyle, Anton. Uh yeah, I know. But not before the business. Business before pleasure every single time. Business before pleasure every single time. There was a car that I just outside of the one that I've been waiting on for the last few years or whatever when they announced the Temerario or a little bit before the Temerario. It was a car that I seen. I'm being absolutely honest and transparent with y'all. There was a car that I seen that I thought was a phenomenal price and it was available to me and I had the cash to be able to get it without pulling out any money from stocks or anything like that. I just had the reserve cash to go get it. I couldn't buy it. I couldn't buy it. It bothered me. I turned and tossed and turned about it. I couldn't buy it. And the reason that I couldn't buy it is because I know it's a property tax auction and it's some specific properties that I'm targeting. I went and researched. I spent my whole weekend looking and viewing different properties and I just can't swing it. Not without liquidating and pulling money out of other things, not without pulling money out of stocks. I don't want to pull my money out of the market. Not for a car. Not for a car. I can't justify it. So I have to reserve my resources so that I can plan to buy these things that I know that I have to buy that's going to add to my asset value of my portfolio. It's nice. And then when I woke up in the morning, I felt better about it because I realized, you know what? When did they stop making cars and when did they stop selling cars? It ain't going nowhere. It'll be there. Maybe not that one. Maybe that one. But it ain't going nowhere. It'll be there. I gotta make sure I make the money play first. You gotta make the money play and then you do the things that you want. It's a time for balling and it's a time for chilling.